This is the Vision, my entry for the color cycle image compo at the GERP demo party in Sweden. Color cycling is a technique of giving the impression of animation by changing only the colors of the image while keeping the image itself static. In this image, every pixel stays exactly in the same place and only some of the colors are rotating. It's often used on retro computers because they didn't have the memory or the processing power to do full-blown animations. And this video shows how I create these things. First, the drawing stage. I wanted to do something like a tribute to probably the game that made color cycling popular on the Amiga, Defender of the Crown, which is about knights and medieval castles and fire and rippling water and such. So I started with this. Then the plan was to add some majestic waves that would become animated. This is all done in Procreate on iPad, by the way, my favorite drawing app, not in the least because it records time lapses like this by default. Turned out doing color cycling for Amiga OCS, low res in 32 colors, is kind of limited. So I went for the generous 265 colors of Amiga AGA. And suddenly also the resolution could increase, so let's use that by expanding our canvas and adding more elements around our scene. Enter the crystal ball. This is pure Photoshop work. It has some handy distort filters, the main one being the sphere distort. And another one, the polar coordinates distort. Cutting out the circle and refining the outline. Adding some highlights. And using the polar coordinates layer for the sides. Oh, and one of my favorite tricks. If you start from a blurry sketch like this and you want to make it look super detailed, just open the camera raw tools and drag the texture slider all the way up. Instant oomph! And wrapping up the glass orb with some specular highlights. Then drawing some additional elements. This is the hand holding the glass sphere. And an old monk or wizard or something, which was in fact a bit inspired by E.T. This is another trick I use all the time. Use a duplicate layer of the sketch where you add a lot of blur, set the blend mode to multiply or overlay and partially paint that in. Instant oomph again! Back to Photoshop for the composition. Collecting all elements and color matching them. Photoshop has automated tools for this, but I usually get better results doing that by hand. Blending in our medieval tower. Flipping it, that's better. And to add the refraction view of the old monk inside the glass, we use a super handy puppet warp tool to distort it a bit. I did try to replicate this tool in my own software, but never really succeeded, so yeah, Photoshop it is. This is just a compositing phase, a bit like a Lego version of the image to quickly fiddle with all elements. For a stony background, I tend to generate some patterns using FiltoForge, an old but trusty procedural texture generator. And I'll probably reuse some parts of this stormy sea image to add some foamy waves. Then back to Procreate for the final drawing. Giving everything more definition. Oh look, there's a moon as well. Done. On to the juicy part, the actual color cycling. I'm using my own image editor dpaint.js for that. To get these smooth transitions, one usually starts by defining a color gradient or ramp. Then we define a color range, indicating the start and end color of the cycle. Toggle the cycle with the tab key and the colors start rotating. We can adjust the speed and direction of the cycle. Then, if you put all the colors in the range next to each other, you get this smooth movement. It's a cycle, obviously, so it works best with repetitive movements like water ripples, fire, through the smoke and so on. If you want a smooth loop, We usually extend the range to include a color ramp in the other direction as well. In fact, the Luxpaint 5 on Amiga does support defining other types of ranges, so you could set up a range that ramps up and down using the same color slots, but I find that kind of impractical to set up, and 265 color slots is actually quite generous. You can speed up the perceived motion by using more pixels per color, or slow it down by skipping colors in the range. This is such a wave pattern I did, and I apply that to the bottom part of the sphere. The idea is to have some magical rays rotating in the sphere. Now, how do you blend that in? We can't use real transparency, so we turn to the old dither pattern trick. In dpaint.js you can add a mask to your layer, and painting with black will conceal the layer, painting with white will reveal the layer. So, painting a simple checkerboard on the mask will make the layer appear to be somewhat transparent, and we can use that to dissolve the wave pattern into the background. Zoomed in, you clearly can see the checkerboard pattern, and zoomed out it looks semi-transparent. I did the same to the light rays on the face. This is the fully opaque pattern. I try to follow the curves of the face a bit. But as we try to blend it in using the same trick, we get a very muddy and grayish effect. Not good. We really want the rays to be brighter on the highlights of the face and almost invisible on the dark areas, if possible without too much tedious manual pixel work. So enter another trick. I made a quick app to convert the image to black and white using various dither methods, tweaking the contrast and color sliders until we reach a good black and white version of our image. Then we simply copy that and paste it onto our mask. Make sure the mask is active, paste the image, and bam! Instant happiness. Without the mask, with the mask. This does exactly what we want, resulting in a much smoother blend. Only, these colors on the face are a bit meh, bland and boring. One of the problems with color cycling is that once you have defined your color range and have a lot of pixels using those colors, it's kind of pretty hard to change. So I made another tool with a very specific function that you can batch edit certain color groups inside the palette at once. I was amazed at the extra possibilities this unlocked. The tool knows about the color cycle ranges you have defined, so you can directly select them. And using these sliders you can fine-tune them in batch. For example, here I'm tuning the colors of these light rays at the bottom. And here I'm giving those face reflections a little more contrast to make them stand out. You can also select subsets in the range to give it some more variation or to smooth things out. Super handy. The Luxpaint on Amiga supports up to 8 different cycle ranges, so I use the same tricks to add more waves and rays. This one as a sort of back rotation on the globe, and a radial one for the background. When zooming in, you clearly see how all these layers are color rotating separately, but when zoomed out they all blend together nicely in one picture. And the cool thing is, because those 8 ranges rotate with different speeds, the full animation shifts very subtle and actually takes quite a long time before it loops, making it almost impossible to capture it completely in an animated GIF or something. dpaint.js saves IFF files that are compatible with the Luxpaint, including the color cycle ranges. So if you spin up your Amiga and load the Luxpaint, you can open it there as well. Mesmerizing, right? Check out the links to the online color cycling version below. Thanks for watching.